Good evening. I'm Dale Mott, a proud producer of the new musical Long Way Down. On behalf of my fellow producers and hosts of tonight's program, Barbara Pasternak of TheaterWorksUSA and Charlie Erstad of Edgewood Entertainment, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to From Page to Stage. Tonight's program is an exploration of the evolution of Long Way Down, from an award-winning novel by Jason Reynolds to the acclaimed musical by Dahlak Brathwaite and Khiyon Hursey. I wish to recognize our co-hosts, March On, Camilla Forbes, executive producer of The Apollo, and Aletha Stevens, founder of Ashe Collective. We are proud to share this very special Black History Month program with all of you. Please note that we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as possible at the end of the conversation. Feel free to share your questions via the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Now, it's my great pleasure to welcome tonight's moderator, Robert Raben. Robert Raben is a powerhouse attorney, lobbyist, and social activist leading the Raben Group, one of the nation's top public policy firms. A former assistant attorney general under President Clinton and counsel to the legendary Congressman Barney Frank, Robert has shaped policy at the highest levels. In 2013, he founded the March on Washington Film Festival, harnessing the power of the arts to illuminate the untold stories of civil rights icons and foot soldiers alike. With a dedicated team led by artistic director Issa Sarabay, March On now serves as a far-reaching year-round arts platform. Let's take a look.
March On is an arts and education platform. We deploy art in all its forms: visual, performance, filmmaking, the written word, all of it, in order to advance our mission, which is to tell the untold or mistold stories of the past, using where we've been as a call to action to where we need to go.
James Baldwin is not just a writer. James Baldwin is a door that once you go through the door, right, and get on the other side, right, or come through the other side, you can never see and think about the world in the same way.
If Dr. Martin Luther King gave America a metaphorical check come due, our generation was the first to reap the installments.
Giving praise to the source of all life, and honor to the seven directions: north, south, east, west, above, below, and within. And to the cycle of life of African ancestred peoples, those who've gone on before, those living, and those yet to be born. Because they were, we are. Because we are, they will be.
Dale Mott, thank you so much for convening us and bringing your genius and your tremendous contributions to the nation, to this exquisite piece of art that we're about to learn more about tonight. Good evening, I'm Robert Raben, and welcome to our virtual salon featuring MacArthur Genius Fellow and award-winning author Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds is a #1 New York Times best-selling author. Let's say that again. Jason Reynolds is a #1 New York Times best-selling author of more than 20 books for children and young adults. A 2024 MacArthur Fellow, he is best known for All-American Boys, co-written with Brendan Keeley, the Track series, and Long Way Down, which earned Newbery, Prince, and Coretta Scott King honors. Among his many accolades, Jason served as the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, an appointment by the Library of Congress, A Washington, D.C. native, you can explore his work at jasonwritesbooks.com. jasonwritesbooks.com. Tonight, we'll dive into the themes of Long Way Down and their transformation into a new hip-hop and R&B musical. We'll share clips from the Olney Theater's successful world premiere production and discuss how you can support this powerful new work. Jason, thank you. Thank you for your artistry and your presence and your genius, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm going to jump into the questions, but just a point of personal privilege, when I read Long Way Down, it's the only book I've ever read, and as soon as I finished reading it, read it again.
I appreciate that.
In sequence, what a gripping and powerful piece of work. God bless you for what you put into it. Through a gripping lyrical narrative, your novel, and now a new musical, explores violence, grief, and the unspoken rules shaping young Black men's lives. Before we discuss how your book has manifested as a musical, tell us, what inspired you to write Long Way Down?
You know, I was a 19-year-old a long time ago, and you grow up in communities where you lose people sometimes, and for some of us, we start losing those people young. And I remember being 19, and I lost a few friends, but this particular friend, it hurt me in a different way, and I decided to do what so many young Black men do when they feel like they have no choice. And I got all my friends together. I went to his mother's house, and we had decided that we would take care of it ourselves because there were rules that we abided by. No crying, no snitching, and it's always eye for an eye. And his mother blocked the door and begged us to let it go. And we did, out of respect for his mom. She didn't want any of our mothers to know what it felt like to lose a son, and so we let it go. But I never forgot the pain and the rage and the anger that was introduced to me that day, the pain and the rage and the anger that exists within me, which is all rooted in a particular kind of heartbreak and an inability to tap into the language to express myself in a more fruitful and healthy way. Now, fast forward all these years, and I realized that there were so many young people who still felt that way, not just about the violence of it all, but about what it means for your humanity to be stripped whenever you can't find vocabulary to express a very real pain, and how the human thing to do in those moments is to express it the best way you can, which looks like destruction. This is a book that is meant to humanize those young people while also showing them that there are choices even when they sometimes feel like there aren't.
A book that successfully humanizes these young people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to hear from the musical's creative team.
So Long Way Down is about this kid named Will who lives in a neighborhood where there's 3 rules. If somebody close to you dies, you can't cry, you can't snitch, and you must get revenge. Upon the death of his older brother who taught him these rules, Will grabs a gun from his brother's drawer and from the 8th floor proceeds to go down his building on the elevator. And on each floor, as he's going down, a ghost walks in the elevator and confronts him about this 3rd rule that he is about to take on.
And what's beautiful about what Khiyon and Dahlak have done with this particular piece is they've written a musical not about these people and how they died, but about how they lived.
Stories high and make stories to remember today. That will treasure love and pleasure of his where it will stay.
I wanted to capture these 3 rules and the sound of these rules, and so that's kind of the place I began.
That makes sense. Who's coming? 3. Who's coming? 3. That's how the rules come. Reasons and orders and motives all come in 3. That's how it be coming.
Hip-hop, rap, R&B, gospel. Those were like my immediate instincts after reading the book. How do we, really subvert and like make these ghosts really musically unexpected while telling a really important story.
So I am bringing to this genre of theater my brand of music, my culture, and that's how we tell stories. This is the sound of our story.
The music is incredible and moving and makes you want to get up out of your seat and dance and sing along with them.
I'm not supposed to ask a question I don't know the answer to, but did you have a hand in picking the creative team?
Me? No. You know, I have a rule, I have a very strict rule, Robert. Whenever anyone asks or decides to do any adaptations of my work, I give over that work to them so that they can make their art. So no. And I'm glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have been able to do it as well as they did or pick the right people.
Wow, what a generous approach, or amazing detachment, or both. So let's sort of talk about some of the themes. How does the rule of revenge shape Will's understanding of justice? What does the story suggest about the difficulty of breaking that cycle?
I mean, I think sometimes we forget that a lot of young people are making mistakes because they're often being punished for things that they don't have, and those things that they don't have, we never gave them. So then we're the people punishing them. And right, it's this weird, so like that alone is its own cycle. And then there's the other cycle that like is the environment and the community and poverty and politics and education and health insurance, food justice. And we can go on and on and on and on and on about what some young people are really up against. Revenge is just a byproduct of those things, right? The cycle of revenge is just, it becomes sort of it spins on its own axis after you look at all the mess that we created and set on their backs, right? And so like he's 14, you know what I mean? And we're like, man, these kids. And it's like, yeah, but he didn't invent this world. He inherited it, and the pressure of making sure that he abides by the rules set in this particular ecosystem. Because you think that if I don't abide by these rules, are there consequences for me? Will the ecosystem fall? Will everything that I think is real dissipate? Will all of a sudden all the people that I've lost with their lives or their deaths for that matter be in vain, right? There's so much at stake here to break those rules. There's so much going on in terms of the mind and the psyche of a young person where the zeitgeist says that you have to abide by a certain rule because it is the foundation and the cornerstone of a community, not knowing that all of that is a ruse, right? All of that is a ruse. The true cornerstone of these communities, as we know, Robert, is love and communication and us linking arms and making sure that each one has a little bit extra to eat if we have a little bit extra in our houses, right? We know that at the end of the day that there has to be someone to keep the neighborhood safe. We need that there are men and women who make sure that they aren't afraid of the young people in their neighborhoods and have no problem speaking to those kids, that they know who the teachers are, that they show up to the schools, that they make, right? These are all the things that we know are the glue and the things that do break those cycles. But sometimes it doesn't feel like that's possible if they don't see us setting those examples.
Well, and the importance of you telling these stories. How few opportunities there are to really get the full humanity that you can see and you care enough about to present.
I mean, one might argue that I'm only serving as a proxy and that perhaps they deserve their moment to tell their own stories.
Okay, Jesus.
Not Jesus, just Jason. Yeah.
Okay, Jason. We're going to see another clip and then come right back.
Bro, focus, man. Just show me what I taught you.
Rules coming, three like death. Rules coming. Rules coming, that's how the rules come. Reasons and orders and motives all coming. Three, that's how it be
Coming where we from. Rules coming, three like death.
That makes sense.
Rules coming,
Three.
Rules coming, that's how the rules come. Reasons and orders and motives all coming. Three, that's how it be. Coming where we from. You know you gotta be wise. Anagrams telling you lies. Follow the rules or you die. Shouldn't come as a surprise. Imagine mama's eyes. Imagine her crying. No, that's the last thing you want. Forget all the fables you own. I'm only telling you once the three things that happen when shots are heard. Mothers start crying, then you hear sirens. Cops interrogate, I'm silent. All that talking for the birds. We don't say words. Never out loud. And when the moment comes that I'm not around, just follow the rules. They won't let you down.
Beautiful. So one of the rules is no crying.
Mm.
Will's silence about his pain reflects, obviously, societal expectations of Black masculinity. How might open emotional expression change his path? Was that possible?
Of course. I think that the freedom to express human emotion is the self-actualization of one's humanity. So if I can't emote, then I can't be whole. It's no different than what we see young people do every day when they're frustrated with something that their parents have told them and they can't find the language to express that frustration. They break their own toys. Right, that's they slam the video game controller on the ground, right? It's a very sort of natural, sort of an animal instinct, a human instinct. If I can't figure out how to find the language, then unfortunately the expression will come out, but it won't come out in a way that perhaps is productive, right? And it'll take me back to a base self. But if he was able to just cry it out, then that means he'd be able to acknowledge that the way that he feels on the inside, the pull of tears, is a human thing, and therefore he must be a human.
The power of sublimation.
The power of sublimation.
They could harness that energy. We're going to see another clip.
Aim, Will, aim. 3 reasons I know that Carson Riggs has killed my brother. He used to live on our block until he moved to another. Carlson became a dark son, a neighborhood gang, and started taking aim at Sean, giving him grief. And in this era, they've been having beef. 2, I'm always watching a crime show. The killer I always know, it's like I'm doing anagrams. Give me perspective like panorama. And 3, had to be. This gun weighs like a baby, as black and as smooth as his skin. This gun weighs like a baby, all that potential within. But when babies cry loud, it signals life. But when this makes her cry, someone's gonna die.
So there are a lot of ghosts in this elevator. Say a little bit about how does Will's encounter with the ghosts from his past force him to look again or reconsider his decision?
You know, it's interesting, right? Because the ghosts, and to make sure that the audience has some that the context is clear. This whole story takes place on an elevator. Right, the novelized version of it. The whole story is just a 1 minute of this kid's life on an elevator. In each floor, he meets a new ghost. But in the book, we aren't sure that they're actual ghosts. We aren't sure. And in the play, it's the same. Where at first you're not sure if they're living or dead. They're sort of teetering between both worlds until you realize what's happening. And the whole point of that, in general, is just it's a conversation around how we're all haunted. Everybody's haunted by somebody or something, or right. My mother is still alive, and I'm haunted by her words all the time. Right. I'm haunted by the teachers who believed in me and the teachers that did not. I'm haunted by the neighborhood guys that taught me how to be tough and the ones that teased me for being soft. Right. These things don't always go away. Right? Things stick on us, stick in our psyches and in our spirits. And I think in this particular story, what's happening is they're not telling him what to do. They're finally serving as example of what it looks like on the other side if you do choose to do it this way. They don't, I think that it's unfair and sometimes a bit unsophisticated to be heavy-handed and didactic. And that's not what this is. It's not that they're saying don't. They're saying, do you even know who you are? Right? Do you know who you are? Because if you knew who you were, then you'd second guess this. You think again. But I'm not going to say this or that. I'm just going to ask you, do you know who you are? Do you believe that tomorrow you could live with this decision? Do you know what it feels like to die this way? Do you know what it feels like to live this way? Right? Are you certain that this is how you want to honor your brother? Will revenge honor his death, or will it besmirch it? Right? Will it be smudge on it? And I think these are the questions that the ghosts are alluding to, in a really brilliant way. I mean, I shout out again to Khiyon and Dahlak for the genius and the subtlety and the deft hand that they used when creating music to tell this story this way.
Well, you gave them so much to work with. I mean, his style is a novel, I believe, and to me, and I'm as literate as every child who went to public schools in the South can be, but it read so much like poetry, which is why it was so easy for me to like read it once and then read it again, and I want to read it in different lights. It just had so much gorgeous complexity to it. I encourage people to read it in front and read it back and read it from the middle. So your words made me think two things, and I'm sure it's very common. I'd love to know your influences. When you were talking about the haunted aspects of our lives, I was thinking about the piano and the piano lesson and how that serves as an organizing principle for the past and how we never get from the past, or how we do get from the past. And then I think about in a world styled on Old Testament revenge, an eye for an eye, how much the ghosts felt prophetic, like Old Testament prophets who were, and now I have to go read the Old Testament to have any idea what I'm talking about. What sort of are the broader message you want to send about generational cycles and personal agency and how we do or don't adhere to the cycles or break from them?
I mean, I think, well, for your first question about my influences, I think, I'm influenced by a little bit of everything. I mean, this book was, a guy like August Wilson is so influential. I mean, he always is using some sort of, there is always a totem that he's an anchoring point that the entire story is rooted around, right? So for me, it's the elevator. And for him, it's the piano or the fence or the trumpet, right? There's always a thing that he uses to build his stories around an object or an item or something that we can anchor ourselves in. So I look at him. I studied a lot of Alfred Hitchcock for this novel. A lot of the style of this book is rooted on Alfred Hitchcock's directorial style, the things he does with the camera and the things I'm trying with words and using the page as a frame instead of as sort of a space to fill. It's more like a frame where I get to play around in. And so lots and lots and lots of things. I mean, I've read copious amounts of literature over the years, obviously. And so I'm influenced by it all. I'm influenced by my mother, my older brother, the stories of my neighborhood. I'm influenced by the kids I meet every day, right? It's all sort of there feeding the beast. And honestly, in terms of the cycle breaking and in terms of all of that, I am mostly interested in and this is a Baldwin quote, right? The interior life is a real life, and the intangible dreams of a person have a tangible effect on the world, right? That's what James Baldwin said. And I'm interested in the interior life of humanity because I do believe that once we understand how to get our insides together, right? How to rearrange and recalibrate our insides, our outsides look different. Right. And that means sort of the inside of the individual. That also means the inside of the household, the inside of the community. Right. All of those things. Like this is about family business. And it's about understanding that, like, we have to love harder. We got to love harder. It isn't about, it broke my heart when those kids protested in Baltimore during the Baltimore uprisings and the death of Freddie Gray. And they were called thugs. And the moment we can call a kid a thug or a gangster or a monster, we no longer have to call that kid a child. And that's dangerous for us. That's dangerous. And that's what this book is sort of challenging and wrestling with and pushing. Is he a bad kid? No, he is a child who is afraid and who feels he has no other option. What do we do for that child? Because whatever the answer is to that is where the cycle breaks.
Thank you for that. We're going to have another clip, And then we're going to, one last question, and then we're going to encourage people watching to send in your questions. We've already got a couple, and we will address them when we come back.
Carlson walks out the door, ready to go about his normal route. Will knows there's something else for him in store. He raises the gun, aims it, and then... But who really taught us how the story ends? The rules given to me by my best friends. They learned from their OGs. Our daddies taught them, that's what they told we. So as your daddy holds me closely, staring coldly, I know he gon' follow through with all three. It's not like he could trust the streets with his tears, or trust the police with the secrets he hears. They probably turn it around, put hand on your head, facing the ground. Happened to all of our peers. Too poor to afford a lawyer, so they giving us years. Been going on for hundreds of years, built wealth and made careers. We like, bump this. If this is how they punish love and making money from us, then we'll make our own justice. Agreed upon by people that love us and we respect. Sacred text for the next, our own way to protect. And so we... This how we release the silence when grief can only speak in violence. I just hear child refrain. You got that this is how you kill your pain. You just, but this pain's too deep for me to see. You just, so this pain can't be in front of me. Hey, it's something inside I can't attack. Hey, I'm trying to hold it all back.
That's right. What's, I mean, one of the questions from the audience, what's exciting, among the many things, what's exciting about seeing your work in a new medium?
I mean, everything. Listen, I'm an artist, right? There's nothing to me more invigorating than art. And so the fact that this story, yes, there are the obvious implications and the weight of this tale, but from the at a very sort of base level, as from a creative level, it's just always cool to see interpretations of a thing you made become a new thing, right? That art begets art, that a thing could be creative genic, right? That you could birth a thing that then births a thing, right? That excites me maybe more than anything. Now, the other side of that obviously is that this story that I've written quite a while ago will get new life and perhaps will be seen and will spread differently and will be experienced differently and therefore will be more effective, right? That the effectiveness of this thing could be completely different than reading the book. And I want that. I want that for young people. I want that for older people. I want that for community members. I want that for people who don't know anything about this world, right? Who may live far away from the communities in which I'm talking about. But I think it's important for them too. This is education for them too, not to be judgmental, but to be less afraid. And the kids who grow up like this, for them to be less ashamed, right? This isn't a jungle that we live in, right? This is a place where human beings are doing the best they can to cope. This is a place where we laugh and find freedom, even in the midst of the bear trap. And for everyone else to see that, to me, it's humbling. It makes me emotional, and I'm excited to see how far it can go.
It's going to go very far, and we're excited as well, and just so grateful that not only do you bring this creativity in the world, but you have the I won't say open source because I'm sure there's a copyright, but you have the ecumenicalism about your work to allow other artists to permutate it and build on it, and that's really a blessing. Thank you. I'm going to bring in we have more questions for you, but I'd love to bring in the producers and some more of the creative team behind the musical. But I'm going to bring on Barbara Pasternak, one of the producers of Long Way Down. Barbara, thank you for putting your time and your treasure and your talent and your brand behind such a beautiful lyrical piece of work. What do you hope this novel's transformation to a musical will achieve?
I mean, I think I certainly can't say it any better than what Jason just said. From the very beginning, this piece has meant a lot. And Jason, when I first came to Jason and said, could we adapt it? He was so generous, even though I think he thought that it being a musical was a crazy idea. But he supported it. And I think I just hope it gets out there in the world. And for that, we need everyone's support. Do we have one more clip, Robert, that we were going to show before we move on?
We may well.
We may well.
Let's toss that to the clip people.
And then we can come back and talk about how everybody can help support the musical.
Losing the words I've been using, or I sung guns I snuck right below my elbow. Felt so much, there's nothing left, no words left, just a plea. Is it on or is it no? Is it no or is it on? I search for the words, but all I feel is something beyond. You coming?
Thank you for that, Barbara. Tell us how we can support Long Way Down.
First of all, can I introduce Dahlak Brathwaite, who happens to be somewhere in ether out there? I don't know whether can we pop him in now?
He's popped.
He's popped.
Hello.
There. Awesome. So good to see you, Dahlak.
Good to see you too.
And as you know, he and Khiyon are the creators of the piece. And so here's the first thing you can do. First, I encourage you to share your email address to info@edgewood.com, and you'll be the first to receive invitations to development presentations and new productions. And there's the slide. Dahlak, that was a very exciting moment in the show. I'm glad we picked it for this slide because I think it communicates the energy, right?
Yeah. 100%. All these clips, especially my favorite is the second clip where Will is about to cry but not ready yet, and all these ghosts are giving him pressure, giving him energy, giving him the space to cry, or pressuring him against it at the same time, and you really feel that tension that will continue on throughout the rest of the piece. So it's great to watch it again, and thank you Robert and Jason for speaking on the piece and on the book and on the work. It's a brilliant and wonderful thing to be a part of.
Yes. So this is the first way you can help. The second way you can help. TheaterWorksUSA is a not-for-profit organization, and so you can also make a fully tax-deductible donation by following the QR code on the screen and in the chat. There it is. Great. I'll take a moment. And I'll also go back and just give you the email where you can get all of this information. And again, it was info@edgewoodedge.com. Great. So those are the first two ways that you can support. And then I want to thank Dahlak for your beautiful work. And I want to thank everybody on the screen. And I hope you will all come with us on this journey. And I'm going to send it back to Robert because he's going to tell us yet another way that you can support.
Well, the crucial way to support is through investment. It takes a wide group of communities and every sort of level of income and treasure to put together art which is so powerful and creative and edgy. In this particular day and age, when there are attacks on our identity and our stories and our very existence, some group of us need to fight back in all the ways that we can, and some group of us need to double down and invest in the quiet ways that are comfortable for you. And storytelling is the evergreen and the perennial way to be visible and to be known and to connect with communities and to educate. So Long Way Down is an excellent investment and partnership opportunity. We can send you the investment deck if you reach out to the email address that's been provided several times, info@edgewoodedge.com, or click in the chat. There's an example of the investment deck. Thank you. Art, whether it's Euripides or In the Heights or Long Way Down, happens because of somebody's genius and the right story at the right time, and then a community of people coming together to create the proscenium and the medium, and those are all the big words I'm going to use. So that's what we're a part of tonight. Jason, you were very, very generous to put your work out into the world and then to allow people to take it and do which they will. Of course, I'm not going to let you go without that classic, pardon me for being on a reality show, question. You are a MacArthur Genius. I know that's not the official title, but that's the title that matters. What was it like when you got the call? How did you find out?
What was it like? I mean, you know, it was, I got the call and I was grateful, but I also challenged the MacArthur Foundation to make sure that they continue to look for us who are writing for the kids. Because the truth is that the scientists don't become the scientists without our books. And the capital L fiction writers don't become who they are without our books. And the architects don't become the architects without our books. Right? Like these are the cornerstones, the linchpin, the building blocks, right? This is how literacy is created and then becomes all the other bits of genius that exist in the world. And so I challenged them a bit to look a little harder in our spaces. And that came after the thank you, but I did challenge them to continue to look for the people creating for the children, because those are the future geniuses.
Most of your work is in young adults and children.
Primarily, yeah. And which is why Long Way Down is so important, which is why this play is so important, and which is why I think people sort of getting involved and engaged and donating and making sure that they're pouring their resources into something like this could be important. You know, at some point, we're going to have to combat the media that is readily available. Like at some point, we're going to have to push back against the cell phone. We're going to have to push back against, right? We're going to have to figure out how to create something that actually might be able to put a dent in this. And I think we can start with figuring out how to get our youngins back in the theater. But that won't happen without the resources of the people on this call, you know?
Yeah, I love that you say that. This is not a plug for it, just to let you know, the March on Washington Festival created a curriculum called Imagining Equity. And it is a 11th grade year-long course for social justice filmmaking. It's the first in the nation, and Los Angeles has it piloted in 3 of its high schools. And of course, we want to bring it nationwide for high school students to have the technique and the learning about narrative form, framing, and then how to actually make a film. And what we were inspired by was 17-year-old Darnella Frazier, who fearlessly is filming the lynching, the murder of George Floyd. And had she not done that, who knows where we would have been. But what would it be like? And this sounds like the genre of your work and the gestalt of what you're trying to do, is to give people the tools they know they have. They just need to be supported and given the technique. And I love it. Dale Mott, thank you for being you and having your hand at the center of so many powerful stories and works of art. Barbara Pasternak, Dahlak, Brathwaite, thank you for producing this new musical, which is going to be terrific. Team, audience, thank you so much for showing up tonight. This webinar will be available and people can watch it. And most of all, Jason Reynolds, for your talent and your commitment and your willingness to share your words, your very powerful words, with the world. God bless you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight.